Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Top 10 Worst of List, the best in worst. I'm your host, Bill Ding, and I'm as punched as pleased to be able to bring you what many consider within the Top 10 Worst of circles to be the finest of Top 10 Worst of lists in the entirety of creation. And today's top 10 worst of list is maybe our most important worst of list ever. I'm talking like number one, numero uno, in terms of, this is super critical. And of course, I'm talking about top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028. In the United States. And this is, this country is spiraling, man, on every level. Economically, morally, militarily, the American exceptionalism is on the chopping block here, people. I'm talking about a full-on collapse of the whole shebang is at stake. So this is the most important top 10 worst of list in history. By far, in a walk. But before we get to the list, I'm obligated to articulate some disclaimers. Number one, I'm an oddball, okay? I've spent 30 years sacrificing everything I could to try to bring about a revolution based on empowering what's good in people, a nonviolent revolution designed to empower people mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, intellectually. Did I say intellectually? Spiritually. The spirit is doubly important. That's why I said it twice. To liberate us from the captivity of the ruling elite who've used highly trained PSYOPs pros they've activated them against us to make us all super paranoid and dumb. And I'm here to put an end to it, goddammit. And so, this list here is designed specifically to be a part of it. And I did, I was a promoter. I had a local TV series, local radio series, put together a brick and mortar production of studio, but it all got destroyed through me being I suppose I'm a jerk off. Who knew? But I tried and failed. And hey, that's what happens. Number two, I'm not a partisan. I'm not going to play the game. I'm not down. The minute you start painting groups of people with broad brushstrokes and saying, well, every one of those people are sucking big, schwants. It's bigotry. That's not true. And the fact is, it's all a game just being played against us to, by the ruling elite and to divide and conquer us and get us fighting amongst ourselves so we're not fighting against them. And they're making out like bandits, beating us down like we're rented mules, red-headed stepchildren, red-headed mules even. I don't know what, you have to say about that. I'm not talking about hate groups, obviously. I'm just talking about people in general. You can't generalize people based on what they are. You need to know who they are. Until we figure that out, or until we put our differences aside and say, look, we're all being victimized here equally. None of the working class, the poor, the middle class, the blue collar types, the independent minded, the independent businesses, none of us have any representation in the power apparatus of the politics, the economy, the education, nothing. And we don't have anything on the horizon that bodes well or promises, fair play. Turn around so that somebody does something to benefit anybody besides the billionaire class. And their wealth has raised 88% in the last 4 years. What are you doing about it? Walking around marching? Oh, I've got a sign. Look at my funny sign. Been real effective. Change the world. That's all you do? Walking around, sign on a nice day, afternoon, spend a few hours. Good luck. Harassing ICE? Is that, near as I can tell, a bunch of dead people, a bunch of people being funneled into detention centers, aka concentration camps, all throughout the country. The ICE is the biggest funded department in the government now, or maybe it's the NSA. Either way, it's bad news for us. Real bad news. Bad news. Anyway, so let's get on with things. Got one last thing. I'm sorry. A lot of people don't think that these lists are legitimate and just kind of sort of winging it and stuff like that. But no, these are legitimate lists I put together along with a team of proctologists who gathered together with me outside of like this Giro's place that I know, and we put these lists together while taking copious doses of amyl nitrate mixed with Ovaltine, and it's that's why part of that commitment to excellence is why we're so well respected throughout the top 10 worst of community. And we've got some sponsors. From the producers of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, it's The Inch Who Hold Christmas. This is bad porno titles. This is really the worst part of it gets better most of the time. Some of the time. From the producers of Sleepless in Seattle, it's Sheepless in Seattle. Tom Hanks, I heard, is, incredible in his reprising the role of the anonymous white suburbanite nobody that he played in the original Sleepless in Seattle. Finally, there's a luxury sports car for pregnant women. It's La Maserati. Boy. Vomitlicious. All right, so let's stop doing that. Sorry. All right, let's get on with this little top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028. Let's clear out the duff and get straight to the sensey buds. No duff, all buds. No twigs, no seeds. Only buds for running for president of the United States. God. What a nightmare. All right, so number 10, the top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028 in the United States. Anyone who thinks it's an honor to be on Saturday Night Live. Please. Saturday Night Live. What a train wreck that disastrous piece of garbage is, huh? Let's do the same joke like 150,000 times. And let's hire a bunch of stiffs and intellectual nobodies. Joe Piscopo. That's horrible. It's so underwhelming. And you really start to get a sense of what it really is when you know that for, the bulk of its tenure, Saturday Night Live appeared on a television station that was owned by the largest defense contractor in the world, General Electric, and run by a hardcore ultra-right-wing crypto-fascist like Lorne Michaels. And it's all sort of kind of makes sense why he brings in so many dummies, why his satire is toothless, stupid. This Trump guy that they got doing the Trump imitation, what a joke. It's like, no wonder everybody is so half-assed in our society. It's a bunch of people who are glorified by giving positions in network television show when they're all just talentless hacks doing lousy material that's pre-chewed and disposable, that has absolutely no relevance and actually is counterproductive to political thought and discourse within our culture. It's turning people dumb. It's making people lifeless. That's its goal. It's not doing that by accident. All the stupidity and disposable nature and plasticity of that show, it's all intentional. That's how it's designed to work. The intention of that show is to make us dumb, lifeless, dispirited, detached, and make us think that there's some representation of lefties in media when there really isn't. The people that come off as lefties are clowns and talentless nobodies. By and large. Once in a while, they back in the day, they'd throw us a bone and stuff like that. But Colin Jost is like a Klan member without the hood, right? It's a freaking joke. His wife freaking comes from a mega rich family. Scarlett Johansson. Aryan broad with, a limitless capacity to sell out. Is this not obvious to everybody? The fact that it's not obvious to everybody is evidence of the problem that's going on in the big picture of our society. Number 9 of the top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028. The person that designed JoJo Siwa's kiss makeup look, makeover. JoJo Siwa, a vapid child star with literally bubblegum, infantile, forgettable, regrettable, nothing to say. Then all of a sudden, she comes out, I don't know, she's still like a kid. She comes out as gay, as a lesbian, and then that's not edgy enough for her to make because all this stuff is all decided by PR departments and, managers and, psyops pros and all that all those manipulators. And And, none of it has anything to do with the reality of what these people are, all these fake marriages. How many fake marriages has Tom Cruise had now? These setups, like Ryan Reynolds, like anybody's going to believe that that guy is hetero? Married to what? To that Blake Lively? Nobody could be married to Blake Lively. It's impossible. I can spend 3 minutes with her other than somebody who's obligated, who's getting paid to spend time with her, like, other actors and stuff like that. She's just designed an obnoxious person who got all of her opportunities because of how obnoxious she is. So she comes off like, it's like a built-in TMZ sort of buzz a maker for TMZ, because she's always so obnoxious nobody can. It just keeps manufacturing this gift that keeps on giving to TMZ. She's like Kardashian without the brains, not the charm. I was going to say. Jojo Siwa, eventually being a lesbian wasn't paying off the way she and her team expected it to. So she goes ahead and becomes the evil JoJo. Because that was the organic trajectory of her organic growth in life. And so she becomes Kiss, like the modern day Kiss, and all dolled up in that stupid makeup. Kiss, the band whose name is an acronym that means Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. A band that, uses an SS symbol from the, the Gestapo as part of their logo. Who thinks, apparently, that Nazism is cool, even though, at least one of the guys is Jewish. So it's messed up. And I hate Kiss because of that. Their music was kind of rocking early on. I mean, to drag it out beyond the first 4 albums, whatever it was stupid. They should have folded their tent after Destroyer and just said, we're done. Just been satisfied with the money they got and form a new band or do whatever. Just enough. And the reason I hate them is because of their logo. Because it's got the S. Is that Nazism? Did I miss the memo? Because obviously at this point Nazism has become super cool. Amongst both parties, both the left wingers, the alt left wingers, and the alt right wingers are all loving Jew hating these days, as egged on by these reprehensible hate mongers at South Park with their frickin' Cartman character, who, I mean, this stuff is not funny. It never was funny. These South Park guys are full on hyper intolerant Nazis. And, you could tell at first, even if you didn't watch South Park and listen to the Cartman relentlessly spout what would otherwise be a hate crime if it wasn't put into a comedy, over and over and over, every episode, over and over. Just absolute disturbing programmatic filth designed to, drive up anti-Semitism in our society, exclusively and intentionally done. And, but you could get an even bigger sense of who they really are by watching the movie Team America, where they make, a relentless hate screed against liberalism, where they take everybody who's, a lot of these people are posers about it, but, a lot of these people maybe are just dumb, and whatnot, or well-intended. There's no, but they single out only people in media that are associated with liberalism and made them look like a bunch of, you know, brain dead nobodies. You know, Matt Damon can barely say his own name. And it's only left wingers that they went after. And it's the same with their show. And they go after Al Gore, and like he's a freaking psychotic nutcase for caring about the environment, and with the man bear pig and all that kind of stuff, making him look like a nut job. They have a nuclear bomb planted in Hillary Clinton's sniz, and pro cigarettes and big tobacco episode, and anti Barbara Streisand episode. I remember they made Barbara Streisand into a mecha Streisand, destroying the town, and okay, what the hell? And they never go after anybody on the right, ever. Or not that I've seen. And it's pathetic. And it's hate. It's a hate crime. It's propaganda at the highest level. And nobody recognizes it. Everybody's like, oh, that's so funny. Carbon's so funny. But it's not just that show. I mean, it's systematic. Automatic, systematic. Sorry. Want to do a little bit of dance machine. Dancing. She's a dance machine. Mort on Family Guy. Brian the dog, who's the only character that really exhibits any political inclinations whatsoever, self-identifies as a liberal, and they make him out to be a complete jerk, smug, idiot, who college dropout, self-imposing, prideful. I mean, this is all designed by people with high levels of psyops training to be anti-left wing. All the Fox shows do it. They sneak in little anti-union jokes all over the frickin' place. These guys are jerk-off pricks, a-holes. I mean, at levels that the actual, the Nazis in Germany couldn't even touch. And I haven't even gotten on Robert Pittman and Clear Channel and Rush Limbaugh and VH1 and MTV and all the brainwashing they did with all that stuff and social engineering. I mean, it's relentless. What the hell's wrong with you? Can't you see this? I saw a show, a show by the guy who did BoJack Horseman. He did a follow-up show, another animated show. It's all about Jewish people. Laugh, live, love. I can't remember what the title is. I saw a couple, 2-3 episodes of it. And in the second episode, a biological brother and sister are talking about the sister wants the brother to donate sperm for her to have a baby. First of all the characters are so freaking obnoxious. They're all Jewish. They're so obnoxious. It's horrible to watch. It's obviously designed, it's not just about the plot that's inside the whatever you're watching. The real plot is the real life plot of what they're trying to, brainwash you with the characters and the plot of what they're showing you. That's the reason for doing it. The reason they did the movie The Replacements was to bash on unions, NFL player unions and stuff like that, where they made the players look like criminals, actual criminals, smug, supercilious, dumb, engaging in actual criminal behavior, and they made all the scabs look like heroes. Earthy, down to earth, lovable heroes. It's all about bashing unions, about getting people to hate unions. It's like Waiting for Superman was another movie. It was dressed up like a documentary. It was a hit piece. It was freaking modern day Leni Riefenstahl, where they show charter schools as being the be-all, end-all of education. The answer to all countries' education problems is charter schools. Okay? There was a charter school in Chicago, either tail end of last year or early part of this year, that had to close in the middle of a school year because they ran out of money. The charter schools are not the be-all, end-all, everything. The only reason charter schools were being promoted by the power apparatus was because they weren't union. The teachers weren't union. The janitors, none of it was union. And they were trying to destroy unions. It's just plain and simple. I mean, you should be seeing these things. It should be transparent to you. You should be like, wow, that's things that, Blackfish was another hit piece where they tried to, they successfully wound up convincing everybody with one movie about one aggressive incident that led to the deaths of two people, unfortunate deaths of two people, but was all based on the fact that the owner of that particular fish, what was his name, Kilowog or whatever, the orca, was serially abused by this one money-grubbing jerk-off. And based on that one movie, which was clearly, I'm watching this movie, it's like, this is obviously a one-sided hit piece designed specifically to bring an end to, performing animal acts. And let me tell you something, okay, about all this stuff. You just don't, I absolutely cannot believe that you're falling for this stuff. Think about it. I call it like a sort of like a magical experience that pretty much only happens in childhood, or, when you're still, you're not beaten down. Your heart isn't crushed by the weight of all the hypocrisies of the world, the lies, your parents lying to you about Santa, your politicians being total classless, self-serving jerk-offs, the stars in the world not being a bunch of, pedophiles and selfish greedmongers, coming out with 43 different colored vinyl albums of your Dead Poet Department album so that you could, suck all the life out of your fans' bank accounts. These life-defining experiences that we have, when we're still that undamaged self, it's full of wonder and optimism and, sort of a little bit carefree. It never really is is as impactful as, those experiences that we have at that time in our lives could be a game changer. And I think that a lot of the experiences that were life-changing were these performing animal experiences in circuses and, aquariums. And think about all the people who become lifelong, biology supporters and naturalists and, joining Greenpeace and everything like that, who are people that had these magical experiences when they were young and impressionable, and they could, they would become dedicated to these things. And when you take all that away, you also take away all those magical experiences. And I guarantee you that since they've ended circuses and aquarium shows and things like that, that the amount of people going into, like biological studies and earth studies and environmental groups and college degrees and stuff like that has got to have declined enormously. And that's exactly why they did the movie Blackfish. And it works. It works like a charm, and it does manipulate us, and it does affect how we live our lives. And, the two people that died because of the Blackfish incident, there's been, hundreds of thousands of shows without any incident at all. And yes, it's probably not a happy life for a lot of these fish. I don't know. They interviewed only the people who were involved with this one abused fish where the owner was abusive. They didn't go out into the world to find out, a reasonable survey amount of people who've worked with these animals for their whole lives. There could be great relationships. We don't know. It was so myopic that it was provided a false positive, and that they passed off as like an absolute, and everybody bought it. Everybody, and now there's no magical one of the identity of the circus in our culture alone. Having that gone is like a bit of magic has left the world. And yeah, some animals had to work. What do you think we're doing here? There's millions of people. 9 million people died from starvation-related causes. A million innocent civilians died because of the Iraq War. And the Iraq War was just a series of lies that the neocons, told everybody. And, a couple of very suspicious Democratic senators died in, sort of like questionable plane crashes within 2 weeks of their respective elections. And nobody says anything about that. Nothing. They've got plenty to say about canceling animal shows. We're all struggling. We're all suffering for the overall benefit of everyone at some point in each of our lives, but, very specifically in millions of lives of people. Why shouldn't some animals having to go to work, basically, to provide those magical experiences of those kids is basically a recruitment tool for biological sciences and scientists and, animal activists that are desperately needed. It's just like an air and water show is a recruitment tool for the military. Well, they still have the air and water show with, all these violent weapons of war where thousands upon thousands of people are killed all the time because of. They let that go on. Nobody gives a rat's ass about that. Oh no, but this one fish out of hundreds of thousands of shows killed 2 people. And now we have to stop it right now. We don't have to stop it right now. These are service animals. Animals are heroes. God damn. Where do you think people are going to come from all of a sudden? If they don't have these experiences up close, how are they going to be groomed in order to be able to take, great jobs that'll benefit animals? How to fight against industrial farming, how to fight against, abuses like dogfighting and stuff like that, and, cockfighting and bullfighting, everything like that, all throughout the world. Real abusive interactions with animals. Where bulls are stabbed and basically dead on their feet and, forced to do this big macho bullfighting crapola. Whatever. You keep doing what you're doing. It's working. Don't change a thing. You're perfect. You're perfect just the way you are. Just like Billy Joel said. Billy Joel, what a visionary, huh? That guy living here in Allentown. Oh my God. What a visionary. All right. Top 10 worst suggestions. Back to the list for President 2028. Number 8. people who do improv. Now, it's so horrible. Improv is so bad. How did that ever become like a thing where people want to go see it? It's just all bad. And it's a good, sort of grooming tool for people who want to, like graduate to scripted stuff that's actually entertaining. But in terms of like being a standalone art form, no thank you. It's just all bad. And it's cringy. And, it's also, again, informed by all of the pressures of political correctness and everything like that. That's all completely detrimental to free spirited exchange of ideas and expressiveness, especially in the comedic fields where you got to be able to, step on a few toes to be able to say anything, sort of worth saying. But the death threats, say anything bad about, Beyonce or Tay-Tay or Britney driving around all over the place, drunk as stone as hell, and getting off with less than a slap on the wrist. Technically flick on the wrist. Here you go, Britney, you're free to go. Just please don't kill people. Improv is just another sort of way of making people believe that there's something entertaining and what's, really like watching a bunch of people in a college class. It's like, why don't we watch people like, it'd be funnier actually, I think, to watch people in like chemistry class or college level English as a second language, or maybe macroeconomics, than it would be to watch improv. At least, the macroeconomics stuff will be sort of natural. But, I think as Lenny Bruce said, we give the words power. And by our own weakness at being, allowing ourselves we're training ourselves to become vulnerable to something as petty and irrelevant as bullies trying to use words to be hurtful to others. It's just simple nonsense to think that anybody should respect their opinion. And that's where we're all missing out. Because when you tell the bullies that you can't use these words anymore, they're hurtful, it's a victory for them. That's exactly what they want to hear. And they'll just empower them to keep using them and finding out more. You say, I don't care what you say. Consider the source. If somebody's using words to really be hurtful, you just think about how stupid they are. And it's weird, the dynamic of how this is all shifting, how the left is being sucked into the ultra-right ideologies and mindsets and viewpoints. Because it's like, hey, when people have a, sort of like when Trump right around 2016, when he was making fun of the reporter, the disabled reporter that, got, blown up all over the place. At that point, all the lefties were rightfully indignant and called that out, saying, man, what the hell is wrong with you? How could you do such a horrible thing to someone? And, the Golden Globe Awards of that year, Meryl Streep, in her glorious, uh, self-centered, egomaniacal way gave a speech saying, Donald Trump, how could you be such a ragamuffin and be so cruel about the one reporter, and then immediately within the 5 seconds later, she's talking about how MMA fans and football fans are inhuman, and how horrible they are for following something that's so lowbrow or whatever it was. And you're thinking oh, okay, well, here you are virtue signaling, and 2 seconds later, you're disparaging people because they like things that you think are beneath you. It's okay. But anyway, that's not my point. The point is that I'm trying to make is that people have they've devolved, because now all over the freaking place, you've got taco, you've got, people, making fun of using words like Gavin Newsom, and they've all, lowered themselves to that playground level of bully talk that everybody, 5-6 years ago, wherever it was, 10 years ago, geez, wow, we're using against Trump. We're blaming Trump for using. Oops. But it's hey, whatever. Okay. If you're going to, lower yourselves to that level, let's just try to remember that it's, pure hypocrisy. Okay. And it's, don't try to deny that it's not happening, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere that we've, seen lefties who were once complaining about that as being so horrible are now using it and engaging in it. And it might be deserved. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is the fact that they're all using it now. Who was it? Was it when they go low, we go high? Well, when they go low, we go as low, if at all possible. And it's just, it's a sign of everybody becoming hateful. Everybody becoming victimized by the social engineers who are trying to homogenize us to the point where we'll just be one ball of frustrating victims without any way of being able to combat the abuse and finding a way out of it. All right, number 7 of the top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028: people with neck beards. Neck beards. Yuck. Am I right? All right, number 6, top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028: Katy Perry's left nut. Katy Perry is now they're calling her out for being, possibly being a sexual abuser. Katy Perry? How could you ever think that somebody would do a song called Last Friday Night, or she appears in the video with looking like a 14-year-old girl, getting blind drunk, getting raped, being sexually abused, driving drunk in her car while blacked out drunk, losing her car, getting her apartment demolished, losing her job, and saying at the end of it that I can't wait to do it again next time. How could that possibly be a negative person who's capable of abusing others? It's astonishing. Number 5 of the top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028: flat mooners. People who believe that the moon is flat. And that's why they didn't, you can't see the dark side of the moon, because the moon is flat. That's why we can't see the other side of it. Yeah, that's right. And, we know that all that moonshot stuff is all fake. It's all fake. What's his name from Dr. Strangelove and Space 1999? Whatever that movie director was. He did it all. He does it. He's doing it all. He's still alive. You got him in frozen in carbonite. All right, number 4 of the top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028. Jennifer Lopez's ass crack. It's about time we put that ass into some good use, though. Maybe she should. The ass crack should run for president. I mean, it'd be better than what we've got in the White House now. Jennifer Lopez's ass crack would make a better president than what we've got now. Yeah, that's a fact. So maybe I have to have the adjudicating board review this line item. Number 4 is under official review that could be replaced on this top 10 worst list eminently. I'll try to put something down in the comments when the adjudicating board gets back to me on the status of that line item. All right, number 3 of the top 10 worst candidate suggestions for president in 2028, candidates for president in 2028. Miley Cyrus's hairdo. What is up with her hairdo recently? Like that nasty. It looks like it's like one of those. It's like a wig from the movie Barbarella, or one of those 60s movies where they got the weird hairdos and stuff like that for B-movie Roger Corman sci-fi flicks. Miley Cyrus, the most irritating person alive. Oh God, I mean, it's like Miley Cyrus's body is just like a life support system for an ego. Miley Cyrus and Trump should get together. They'd make the perfect power couple. Number 2 of the top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028. Anyone the Democratic Party force feeds us. I mean, look at their record. Hillary, who wouldn't even bother to campaign in the blue states, said, I need to go down to campaign in Texas. Texas doesn't play. She lost by 9 points, okay? Not in play. Just a lie. Thanks to Hillary for, with an assist from Kirsten Gillibrand, who helped force Al Franken to end his political career over some old picture that, was just innocuous. And there was a picture of him faking that he was grabbing somebody's honkers on a plane flight after some charity event or something like that. The lady who was in the picture said, he's a nice guy. It was just a practical joke. There was no actual abuse in the situation at all. It was just a silly whatever, nothing. Al Franken would have been the perfect foil for somebody like Trump. I mean, he was already going after Trump with his books and stuff like that. Brilliant guy and dedicated and a true liberal. I guess that's why they got rid of the DNC, got rid of him over that thing. And then Bernie gets jobbed again in the 2020 primaries, and they give the nomination to Biden. Biden had lost the first 5 primaries in dramatic fashion. He came in 5th place, and when all of a sudden the DNC is like, "Oh my God, Bernie could win," and so from that point on, Biden wins everything, runs the table, fixes. Can you say fixes in? Yeah. And then, don't even get me started on Kamala. The right wing, if would have won, if Kamala would have won, the right wing could have just as easily had a campaign called No Kings, because nobody voted for Kamala in the primaries. There were no primaries. Really, it was all just sort of like one of these fait accompli types of primaries. It was obvious that Joe Biden was out to lunch. And um, uh, you know, after he won in 2020, it should have been obvious to people. People should have been, you know, in panic mode after they won the election in 2020 to find somebody, a truly, strong candidate to run in 2024. And then, look, I mean, who was that lady who's in charge of the, Kamala, just to circle back for just 1 second, Kamala was the least popular candidate in the 2020 primaries, got 0 delegates, and was one of the first ones to quit. And she's a total nobody. Why she was picked to be the vice president is beyond anybody's ability to truly grasp. It's absolute insanity. And then to just hand her the nomination is, that's what the true essence of what No Kings is about, is having leaders imposed upon you without being able to elect them. And sure, there was the election itself where people could vote, but that's not the same. And you can have, most of the conventions, the political conventions throughout history, until recently, the nomination was decided at the actual Democratic and Republican conventions. So you had time to be able to have some sort of, in 68, Lyndon Johnson didn't bail on the presidential election until March of 1968. So there was only a few months there to be able to campaign before the convention. Anyway, the convention actually decided the nominee, because they did have some sort of makeshift primaries to try to, follow along with that process. But they didn't, I don't think they got through all the primaries. And then, of course, RFK got murdered. And, that threw it up into even more confusion and chaos. But it wasn't that much longer than what the Democratic Party had at their disposal when Kamala was given the nomination, anointed by the powers that be in the DNC. Bad news. That is not what a Republican form of government, republic with small r, is supposed to look like. So when they call the movement against Trump as the No Kings movement, it's not I'm not talking about just the movement, I'm just talking about the title. And titles are important, right? Sort of identifies the entire nature of what's going on with that ongoing grievances and demonstrations against the unfairness of and horror, quite frankly, that we're seeing in the power apparatus today, because the Democratic Party in 2024 was not democratically electing their candidate. So the ones who were actually closer to exhibiting, monarchy or fascist or whatever you want to call it, lack of representation was the Democrats. Why not just call it, no fascists or something like that? That was just right straight to the heart of it. No kings. Then you opened yourself up to all those different attacks. And then you're going to be fighting about these little petty nothings. And it's, just because somebody, who are these people who organized it and called it, named it No Kings? Do we know? Is it Hillary? Hillary and her surrogates were out in force on the very day that Joe Biden declared that he wasn't going to run, and he was pulling out, and then he was throwing his support behind Kamala. Hillary surrogates were all over the goddamn press, showing up in the New York Times, showing up at NPR, everything like that, giving full-throated endorsements for Kamala. I mean, it was over before anybody could even catch their breath. And that's not representation. It's not a democracy. It's as far from democracy as anybody can get. And everybody wants to be like, oh, but Kamala is so funny and so laughing all the time, and Tim Walz called everything weird, and Kamala went to buy a bunch of jazz albums and stuff like Charlie Mingus. Like anybody ever called him Charlie? Nobody ever called him Charlie. She walks out of this, obviously set up blurb that they splashed all over social media about her going shopping for vinyl. Okay, so she's cool. She must be cool. She's shopping for vinyl. I got some Charlie Mingus. Dang, dang, the one day, blah, blah. It's Charles Mingus. And the guy was, like a high-strung guy. People were calling him Charlie. He was Charles. Charles. I saw an interview with, what's her name? Anne Frank, not Anne Frank, the lady, the writer lady people. And she knew Charles Mingus really well. Fran Lebowitz. And she's talking about, how intimate experiences that she had with Charles Mingus. She's always calling him Charles. This is somebody who actually knew the guy. Not Charlie. I got some Charlie Mingus. I got vinyl. She is as bad as everybody says she is. I'm sorry. She is. She might be a nice person, to pal around with. But, I mean, she is as dressed up phony as anybody can get. And doesn't have the intellectual prowess to lead us, out from under the boot heel of the rapidly disintegrating United States as we descend not only into just fascism, but descend also into the clutches of the AI, robot world. The Democratic Party is against the working class, against the poor, against the middle class, against independent thought. They are. They're sellouts. They aren't to be believed. I don't know how you get out of it, but certainly not. The Democratic Party has done nothing for us. Obama, okay, great. He gave a 2% tax break to all the corporations when he suspended the Social Security matching tax with a 2% Social Security reduction for 2 years. 2 years, which would have extended the viability of the Social Security. Just that one move that he did would have extended another 11 years of solvency in Social Security. Why did he do that? It was a minuscule tax relief for us, where we'd get, a couple of bucks on each of our paychecks. Everybody, just immediately spend it at a box store. Worthless. But for corporations who had thousands of employees, it's $1 billion tax cut for all the corporations around the country, because they have to match what we pay in the Social Security. The whole Social Security system runs on the fact that our employers have to match what we pay into the system. Cost us 11 years of solvency by doing that. Obama never went after the neocons after they clearly lied our way into the Iraq War, which resulted in a million innocent civilians dying and, untold amounts of money that was robbed from us to pay for it. I mean, modern day American wars, the booty that they get isn't from the countries that we conquer. The booty that they get is from the taxpayers of the United States, where we pay billions, trillions of extra money to build new replacements for all the bombs and build new attack platforms, like with the counterinsurgency weaponry and stuff that they needed for drones that they needed for the Iraq War, to try to rebuild after the Soviet Union collapsed, nobody needed tanks anymore. They needed all these like little skirmishy types of weaponry and things like that they could use to defeat insurgencies and sectarian violence and all that kind of stuff. And it's not just for us, because they brought all that weaponry after the Iraq War. They brought it back to the United States and distributed it all around the country. So now our police forces and stuff have the ability to be able to quash any uprisings. I mean, it almost seems like they designed that war so they could create all this counterinsurgency weaponry and bring it back to use on us. And here it comes. Here comes a real reason for insurgency to happen. It's actually pretty eminent, in fact, and they've got all these different types of people who are fighting against, this new weaponry that we paid for from the Iraq War. And how many billions did we pay to Halliburton? Halliburton, who was, designed to be the only company that was suitable for a no-bid contract to provide, for the first time, privatized support for all the military needs when they were fighting the Iraq War, providing, delivering all the fuel that they needed, delivering all the meals that they needed, all that kind of stuff. When Dick Cheney joined Halliburton in 1995, he made all the money moves that made them perfectly suited to be able to get all of those no-bid contracts. So he knew probably in 1995 that that we were planning on going into Iraq. All this stuff was like laid out in advance. And then he came out of Halliburton in time to be able to go back into the government so that he could help design the initiatives to convince the United States that we had to go to war, absolutely had to go to war to Iraq, which also, sort of suggests that 9/11 was an inside job, that the Iraq War was never needed to be fought and everything like that, but it was all planned out years in advance and perpetrated by, these people who Obama left off the hook because he didn't go after them. I mean, it's so freaking obvious that they had lied. Colin Powell shows up to the freaking General Assembly of the United Nations with a bottle of anthrax, showing a PowerPoint presentation about all these rolling chemical laboratories and aluminum tubes that Saddam allegedly had that never even existed. It was all lies. The President of the United States himself, in the State of the Union address, they had the famous 16 words about Saddam seeking yellow cake uranium in Niger. Well, that never existed either. And why didn't somebody go after them? And, that's the whole idea of having two political parties, so that, they provide some balance against each other so none of them gets too crazy or anything like that. But it doesn't work if the opposition party doesn't go after the evildoers and the lawbreakers. Right, and let them off a hook over and over again. The same thing happened with Iran-Contra. Same thing happened with the Vietnam War. Same thing happened with the tail end of Watergate. They just sort of said, "Oh, okay, well, let's forget about the rest of that." You don't forget about the rest of it. The presidential pardon, while I'm in the subject, is like, it's as bad as we're seeing it now. How bad it really is, but it's as bad as the Electoral College and the inequities of the way that we vote in Senate, the representation of the Senate by state, where everybody gets two elected officials for each state. Well, hey, so that means that Wyoming has just as much power with 400,000 people living in the state that California does with 40 million people living in the state. What is wrong with you? Why aren't you up in arms about any of that? No, the only thing that you have to protest about is the goddamn Jews that you want to annihilate and massacre because you've been brainwashed into thinking, that anti-Semitism is justified. It's justifiable. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolute craziness. And then all these people are contributing to it. None of these people are going after the real evildoers. And it's right out there in the open. You got them watching the freaking, Building 7 at the World Trade Center collapsing without ever being hit by anything. Or you seeing, and obviously collapsing in a way that is, easily identifiable as a self-destruction. Or an implosion type of that they use for all the buildings that we see like little slow motion videos of and laugh about. Ha ha ha! Look at that beautiful implosion of that building. It's the same thing with freaking the Pentagon. Why? How is it somebody supposed to fly a jumbo jet into the side of the Pentagon? It's only about 5 stories tall, and it flies right into an area of the Pentagon that had recently been renovated to be bomb-proofed, and that there was hardly anybody in that area, so that it reduced the amount of injuries and deaths enormously. How did the terrorists know to fly it into that particular part of the building where it would do the least amount of damage? Huh? And how is it that the Pentagon has less cameras? They can't see. There are no cameras covering the other than one that was from some parking entranceway that showed it's like one of those old school 1970s security cameras from a 7-Eleven or something like that, where it shows like 1 frame per second and whatnot. Is the only camera video evidence that I've ever been able to find anywhere on the internet about the plane hitting the Pentagon. Well, it's for about 30 years or something like that, where they've had a half a dozen cameras in the front of my grocery store monitoring the parking lot. They've got less camera coverage of the Pentagon than they do. And by the way, why didn't he fly in through the top of the building? It's the world's largest office building. Why didn't he throw him through the top? It's easy. I mean, these are guys who trained on crop duster planes for 6 weeks. That they choose the most difficult angle is also actually impossible angle in terms of the, measurements of everything that hit and the disappearing, evaporating plane engines and the tail just sort of evaporated into another dimension or whatever. When you could have just, any old pilot could have flown that plane into the top of the Pentagon and done massive amounts of damage. Massive. Much bigger than flying into the side of a 5-story tall building with a guy trained on a crop duster for 6 weeks. You're nuts. You don't even know what the hell you're looking at anymore. It's just all it's all blending with, the Bourne Identity movies and stuff like that, where you're just thinking wow, that's exciting. Wow, what a great movie. It's not a movie. It's reality. People are dying all over the place. And it's being hidden from you, and you're being given a forced perspective of how to see the world through their eyes, through their prism, through their experiences, and what they're trying to impose upon us in terms of social engineering and brainwashing, and you're all buying it like it was candy do, baby. I don't know. I don't have a metaphor here. All right, so the final item for top 10 worst suggestions for president in 2028, a 2.5 ounce pouch of light tuna and water. Oops. Frickin' bell. Well, there you have it. That's, the top 10 list. I know there's a lot of redundant things I've covered on some other previous lists, but I just don't know, who listens to what. I mean, basically, the early results of me rolling out these episodes, very few people are watching, and I don't even know. I don't think they're watching very long into it. So I just try to hit everybody with everything I got on an ongoing basis. Maybe they'll catch on to it. Maybe they'll glom onto it. Maybe they won't. But I got to leave it all on the field at this point. I don't know how much time I've got left. I don't know how much time we've got left. We certainly, took an 80-year-long nap after the end of the hostilities of World War II, but World War II never ended. All the people who bought and paid for the growth and development of Nazi Germany, in 1933, during the height of the Depression, there were only a few people on Earth who could have built the Wehrmacht because it was fully operational by 1935. So they had a lot of money at their disposal. Within 2 years, they went from 30% unemployment to full employment, and also, one of the most advanced militaries in all of history up until that point. And they're actually fighting volunteer wars in Spain. They had enough money and resources and war material to go out and fight to try to help Castro overthrow the duly elected government of Spain. And they won that war. But where are these people? Who are these people who came up with the money? It's probably, all those people who are spouting hate and anti-Semitism and looking for a white power fascist country to be the Aryan nation that they'd always dreamed of, going back to the Confederacy. You got Henry Ford, you got the Windsor family, the Crupps family, the Harriman family. Actually Bush, Prescott Bush worked for the Harriman family running Union Bank. When they were shut down in 1942, after we had already declared war against Nazi Germany, they were shut down because they were laundering money for Hitler. So these are guys who, like, obviously been shown to be committed to helping Hitler. It's the fact. It's because they covered up and they don't talk about it as much as they talk about, like, trickle-down theories and all that other garbage. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you're off the hook. Ignorance is not, an excuse. It's the cop-out that they count on for them to have gotten this far in the plan to convert the United States into the new Nazi Germany. And they did it when, the United States elected the head of the military to be the head of the civilian government, Dwight Eisenhower. He brought all those guys in with him. Here, Prescott Bush, come on in. Nixon, little creepy frickin' maniac. And Allen Dulles, and all these venal, hateful, malignant fascists. Anyway, I'm tired of you. I'm tired of this. I'm just as tired as all that stuff there, but I'm not ready to give up, man. Nobody asked me to do this. I'm doing this just because I believe in my heart that there's still something worth saving. Probably wrong. You certainly haven't done anything to prove me wrong. I mean, right. Wait. To prove me wrong. That's it. Get off the schneid. Pick up the slack. Get involved. Even if they wind up exterminating us, at least we'll go out on top. All right, so that's the end of another blah, blah, blah. Who gives a rat's ass? Nobody's watching this stuff. I feel so alone. Good thing I like being alone. So all this stuff is, this is all, everything I've said here is just opinions, okay? I might not be right. I want you to look it up for yourself. And you should be doing this all the time. Everything is fake now. All the videos, things, all the people, the talking heads you think are on your side that you've opened up to, would be it Fox Media, be it MS, NBC, whatever they're calling MS Now, whatever. It's all fake. It's all scripted. It's all controlled by billionaires who are the only people who have green light powers, who are all out to get everybody besides billionaires. And remember, Occupy Wall Street, which was probably the most organized and authentic protests that we've seen in the United States, was allowed to last for a month before they cleared them all out. In China, the land that's supposed to have all this fascism and the nonstop limitations on people's freedom, when they had a similar series of protests called the Umbrella Revolution, they eventually cracked down on it, but they gave them 2 months. Okay, so the United States, 1 month. China, the supposed perpetrators of all this fascism and intolerance and bullying, blah, 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 government, 2 months. Okay? It's up to you, man. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of things. Why don't we just try to figure this all out together? What do you say?